What happens when an entitled royal walks onto a set and meets a host who refuses to play along? Today's story takes you inside a shocking backstage drama that unfolded right before a live studio audience. A clash so tense, producers were left scrambling and the cameras nearly stopped rolling. This is not just another celebrity interview gone wrong. This was a battle of wills between a guest used to getting her way and a host who was not about to let that happen on her stage. Make sure you subscribe and tell me in the comments what you would have done if you were in Kelly's shoes, because this one gets wild. Let's dive in. The atmosphere in the studio that day started off as any other. Kelly Clarkson, ever the professional, was preparing for what should have been a light, easy segment. Meghan Markle was set to join the show, supposedly to talk about a charitable initiative and her journey since stepping back from royal duties. Producers expected smiles, maybe a few carefully chosen anecdotes, and the usual polished charm. But from the moment Meghan stepped onto the set, it was clear that this would not be a typical interview. Meghan arrived with an entourage that seemed more suited for a head of state than a daytime television guest. Assistants buzzed around her, adjusting her hair and makeup repeatedly, even as the cameras were about to roll. When Kelly approached to greet her guest, Meghan barely acknowledged her, glancing past the host as if scanning for someone more important. Kelly, always gracious, extended a warm smile and offered her hand. "We are so excited to have you here today, Meghan," she said. Meghan gave a small, tight nod. "I hope this will go smoothly. I have a tight schedule, and I really need this segment to reflect well on me." The tone was icy. Kelly, caught off guard for just a second, brushed it off with her trademark charm. "Of course, we're here to celebrate your work and have a good time with our audience." The cameras started rolling. The audience applauded as the music cued the introduction. Kelly welcomed viewers, and Meghan settled into her chair, crossing her legs with a practiced air of confidence. "Meghan, it's so good to see you. Tell us a bit about the new project you've been working on," Kelly began, trying to set a positive tone. Meghan's response was sharp. "Well, first of all, I hope we can focus on the important aspects today, rather than the fluff. I know these shows sometimes veer off into silly territory, and I really do not want that." A ripple went through the audience. Kelly raised her eyebrows slightly, but kept her composure. "Absolutely, we're all about highlighting meaningful work here," she replied, though anyone watching could sense the tension rising. Kelly attempted to steer the conversation. "So this new foundation, tell us how it came to be." Meghan launched into a well-rehearsed speech about vision and impact, but her tone was clipped, as if she were delivering a lecture rather than engaging in a conversation. When Kelly tried to interject with a light-hearted comment to connect with the audience, Meghan cut her off. "I would appreciate it if I could finish," Meghan said, her voice low but firm. The audience, sensing the awkwardness, grew quieter. Kelly blinked, then nodded. "Of course, go ahead." Minutes felt like hours as Meghan continued, barely pausing, her answers long and filled with jargon that did little to connect with the viewers. Kelly tried again. "I love that you're so passionate about this. Can you share a moment that really touched you personally while working on this project? Something that shows us the heart behind it." Instead of embracing the opportunity, Meghan sighed audibly. "I just think it's unfortunate that media always tries to extract some emotional anecdote. This is about strategy and measurable results. I wish people would focus on the substance." Kelly smiled, but the glint in her eye had changed. She leaned forward slightly. "I totally get that, but sometimes people connect through stories, not just numbers. That's why we ask." Meghan gave a small, dismissive shrug. "I suppose I can think of something, though I really don't see the point." By this time, the tension on set was thick enough to cut with a knife. Kelly's team backstage exchanged nervous glances. The segment was veering into uncomfortable territory, and there were still several minutes left. Kelly decided to shift gears, hoping to lighten the mood. "Let's play a quick game we do with all our guests. I ask, you answer with the first thing that comes to mind. Fun, right?" Meghan's smile was thin. "I really do not think that's appropriate. I came here to discuss serious matters, not play games." Kelly let out a soft laugh, though it held no humor now. "It's just a little fun, Meghan. Our viewers love it, and I promise we keep it respectful." Meghan leaned back, crossing her arms. "I am not here to entertain people with silly questions. If that's the direction this is going, perhaps we should wrap this up." For a beat, there was silence. Kelly stared at Meghan, the usually warm host now stone-faced. Then she spoke, her voice calm but firm. "You're on my show, Meghan. My job is to make sure our audience enjoys the time they spend with us. I ask the questions. That's how this works." The air in the room seemed to still. Meghan's expression hardened. "I think I have been more than patient. If you cannot stick to the topics I agreed to discuss, I don't see why I should stay." Kelly paused, then gave a small nod. "If that's how you feel, I won't keep you. We don't force anyone to stay." The audience watched in stunned silence as Meghan glanced toward her team. A handler approached, whispering something, but Meghan raised a hand to stop them. She turned back to Kelly. "I came here out of goodwill, and this is how I'm treated?" Meghan said, her voice rising slightly. Kelly kept her tone level. "You're being treated with respect, Meghan. But this is a conversation, not a monologue." The words hung between them, heavy and final. The silence that followed Kelly's words felt deafening. The audience, unsure whether to applaud or hold their breath, remained still. Meghan stared at Kelly, her jaw tight, as if weighing her next move carefully. Then, with an exaggerated calm, Meghan smoothed the fabric of her designer dress and leaned slightly forward. Her voice was steady, but the edge was unmistakable. "A monologue? Kelly, I was under the impression that I was invited here to speak on matters that truly deserve attention, not to be subjected to condescension." Kelly's lips parted slightly, as though the words surprised even her. But instead of retreating, Kelly met Meghan's gaze with quiet resolve. "There's no condescension here. I think people watching can see that I've done nothing but try to have a good, open conversation." Meghan tilted her head. "Open? You interrupted me. You tried to push me into some frivolous game. That's hardly my definition of open." The room grew heavier. Even the cameras seemed to hesitate, as though unsure whether to keep filming or cut to commercial. But the director, sensing that something unprecedented was unfolding, gave the signal to keep rolling. Kelly's expression softened, though it was clear the warmth had been replaced by something steely. "I respect what you're trying to do, Meghan. I really do. But this show is about connection. I ask questions that help the audience understand the person behind the title. That's not frivolous. That's human." Meghan exhaled slowly, as though holding back frustration. "Perhaps I misjudged this platform. I had hoped for something more serious. I have given countless interviews where I was treated with dignity and seriousness. I expected the same here." Kelly folded her hands, choosing her next words carefully. "Dignity is not in question. But maybe what's at stake here is whether you're willing to let people see who you really are. Beyond the statements, beyond the polished answers." For a moment, it seemed as though Meghan might soften. But instead, she straightened in her chair, her posture perfect, her eyes cool. "I think I've shown who I am. A woman trying to make a difference, despite constant scrutiny and unfair expectations. But I will not lower myself to parlor tricks. For entertainment value." Kelly let out a quiet breath, the kind that signaled patience wearing thin. "No one's asking you to lower yourself, Meghan. I'm asking you to engage. To let people in. Just a little." Meghan's gaze swept the audience, as though appealing to them directly. "And I'm asking for the respect to discuss what matters. The world doesn't need to know my favorite color or the last song I sang in the shower. It needs to know how we can make it better." A few in the audience clapped hesitantly, unsure if it was the right moment. Kelly's smile was small, but it did not reach her eyes. "Maybe the world needs both, Meghan. The work and the woman behind it." The tension was now almost unbearable. Sensing an opportunity to redirect, Kelly tried once more. "All right, no games. Let's try this. What's the one thing you want our viewers to take away today?" Meghan's reply came instantly, as if she had been waiting for this exact moment. "That substance matters more than spectacle. That impact matters more than image. And that I will not be part of a media circus." The words landed like stones in the room. Kelly held her gaze, her voice quiet. "Then maybe you've chosen the wrong stage today." That was it. The crack that broke the dam. Meghan's expression darkened, her composure finally faltering. "Excuse me. You heard me," Kelly said, no longer smiling, no longer performing. "Just speaking plainly. If you think this is a circus, if you think connecting with people is beneath you, maybe you should have passed on the invite." Meghan's team began to stir at the edge of the set, uncertain whether to intervene. Meghan, however, stayed seated, her hands gripping the armrests of the chair so tightly that her knuckles blanched. I don't have to sit here and be insulted, Meghan said, her voice low and trembling with restrained fury. And I don't have to sit here and be steamrolled by someone who doesn't respect the spirit of this show, Kelly countered, her voice unwavering. The audience could hardly believe what they were witnessing. The queen of daytime warmth was standing her ground, in a way few had ever seen. And Meghan Markle, the guest of the hour, was now on the brink of walking off live television. Kelly leaned back slightly, folding her arms now, mirroring Meghan's earlier stance. So what's it going to be, Meghan? Do we try to salvage this and have a real conversation? Or do you want to call it a day? Meghan hesitated, the weight of the moment hanging over her. Her eyes flicked to her team, then back to Kelly. You know what? I think I'm done here. I don't need to subject myself to this kind of disrespect. Kelly gave a single nod. Calm as ever. That's your choice. And with that, Meghan stood. The sound of her heels on the set floor echoed loudly in the hush that had fallen. One of her assistants hurried forward to gather her things, but Meghan waved them off, lifting her chin as she strode toward the wings. Kelly turned back to the camera, addressing the viewers with a poise that only years of performing under pressure could produce. Well, folks, that was unexpected. We'll be right back. The director finally called for a break. The screen faded to black, but the buzz in the studio did not stop. People whispered, exchanged glances, and tried to process what had just happened. Backstage, producers scrambled, trying to decide what to do next. The break felt longer than it was. The audience murmured among themselves, the energy in the room now charged with disbelief. Backstage, Kelly sipped from a water bottle, her hands steady, though the intensity of what had just unfolded still clung to the air like smoke. A producer approached cautiously. She's still here, he said in a low voice. She hasn't left the building. There's talk about coming back out. Kelly raised an eyebrow, setting the bottle down. Really? He nodded. Her team is trying to convince her. Maybe. To salvage this. They're saying it looks bad to storm off. Kelly gave a soft huff of laughter, not out of amusement, but out of the sheer absurdity of it all. If she comes back out, I'm not changing the way I run my show. The producer nodded, clearly relieved that Kelly wasn't rattled. Understood. Minutes later, as the lights brightened again and the cameras prepared to roll, there was a stir near the edge of the stage. Meghan had returned, flanked by two of her assistants who stopped at the wings as she stepped back onto the set. Her expression was composed, but the tension around her eyes betrayed the storm still raging beneath the surface. Kelly greeted the camera. And we're back. Joining us again is Meghan Markle. The audience clapped, though the applause was thinner now, cautious. Everyone sensed they were witnessing something unusual, something raw. Meghan took her seat again. This time, she didn't cross her legs. She sat upright, hands folded in her lap, her gaze fixed on Kelly. I wanted to come back, Meghan began, her voice measured, deliberate, because I believe in setting an example. I don't want young women watching this to think it's acceptable to walk away from a difficult situation. Kelly gave a small nod, acknowledging the words without interrupting. I respect that. Meghan glanced at the audience, then back at Kelly. And I think perhaps we both want the same thing. To have an honest dialogue. Kelly's expression softened slightly. That's all I ever wanted. There was a beat of quiet, as if both women were trying to find a way forward without losing face. Kelly took a breath. So let's have that dialogue. No games. No fluff. Just real talk. Meghan nodded. Fine. Ask your questions. Kelly leaned forward, elbows resting on her knees. All right. What's the hardest part about doing what you do now? No speeches. Just the truth. For the first time, Meghan hesitated. The polished mask slipped, if only a little. The hardest part? That no matter what I do, it's never enough. That people think they know me, think they can judge me, when they've never walked in my shoes. Kelly held her gaze. Do you think maybe people want to know you because they admire the platform you have? Not because they want to tear you down. Meghan exhaled slowly, as if the question caught her off guard. I suppose. But it doesn't always feel that way. The mood shifted. The sharp edges of the earlier clash softened, replaced by something closer to what Kelly had been trying to achieve from the start. Connection, Kelly nodded. I get that. More than you probably think. Meghan studied her for a moment, as if seeing Kelly for the first time that day. Do you? Do you really? Kelly's voice was steady. Sure. People see me smile, see me sing, see me crack jokes, and they think they know me. But they don't see the nights I'm up worrying about my kids, or the times I've had to fight for my voice in a room full of people who thought they knew better. Meghan's posture eased, just slightly. It's exhausting, isn't it? Being judged for the version of yourself that people invent. It is, Kelly agreed. But it's also part of the deal. When you have a platform, people look. It's what you do with that attention that matters. Meghan sat quietly, considering that. The audience, sensing the shift, leaned in, hanging on the words now instead of the tension. Kelly continued, her tone gentle. I'm not here to make you look bad, Meghan. I wanted to give people a chance to see you. Not the headlines. Not the statements. You. There was a long pause. Meghan looked down at her hands, then back up. Maybe I was too defensive. I came in expecting the worst. Kelly offered a small smile, the first genuine one since the interview began. And maybe I pushed a little hard. But that's because I care about having a real conversation, not just a segment that looks good on paper. Meghan let out a soft, rueful laugh. Well, we certainly gave them something to talk about. That broke the tension fully. The audience laughed, the first real, shared laughter of the day. The moment was human, imperfect, and real. Kelly gestured lightly. So, can we start fresh? I won't ask about your favorite color. Meghan smiled, this time without the stiffness. Deal. But just as it seemed like the interview had found its footing, Meghan's assistant stepped onto the set, whispering urgently in her ear. Meghan's expression changed instantly, the wall going back up. She shook her head at whatever was being said, but the assistant's insistence grew. Kelly watched, her smile fading. Everything okay? Meghan rose from her chair abruptly. Apparently, no. I need to go. Now. Kelly stood too, instinctively. Is something wrong? Meghan hesitated, then simply said, I'm sorry. I have to leave. Without another word, Meghan turned and walked off, her team swarming around her as she exited the set for the second and final time. Kelly remained standing, watching the space where Meghan had just been. The audience was silent again, unsure whether to applaud, react, or simply process what they had seen. Finally, Kelly turned back to the camera. Her voice was calm, but her eyes showed the weight of the morning's emotional roller coaster. Well, that was one for the books. Thank you all for sticking with us. And remember, sometimes the real story isn't in the headlines. It's in the moments in between. She paused, offering a final, warm smile. If you haven't yet, subscribe for more conversations, the good, the messy, and everything in between. And tell me in the comments, if you had been sitting in my chair today, what would you have said? The camera pulled back, and the show faded to its closing music. As the closing music faded, the cameras cut, but the energy on set remained heavy, thick with everything unsaid. Crew members moved quietly, resetting lights and preparing for the next segment. But their eyes flicked often toward Kelly, who stood still, processing the surreal exchange that had just unfolded in front of millions. Kelly finally exhaled and made her way backstage. But before she could retreat fully into the safety of her dressing room, a producer intercepted her, headset askew, eyes wide. Kelly, she's back. The producer said, breathless. Kelly blinked. What do you mean she's back? She left. The producer ran a hand through his hair. She's in the hallway, saying she wants to clear the air. With you. No cameras. Just you. For a brief second, Kelly considered declining. The morning had been a minefield, and she had navigated it with more grace than most would have managed. But curiosity, and perhaps a desire to end things on a note that felt less fractured, pushed her forward. Fine, she said quietly. Bring her in. Moments later, Meghan entered. No entourage this time, no assistants adjusting her appearance or whispering in her ear. Just Meghan. The tension between them, though still present, was different now. Less about performance, more about unfinished business. Meghan spoke first. I shouldn't have walked off. Either time. Kelly crossed her arms, watching her carefully. You did what you felt you had to do, but you didn't make it easy. Meghan nodded, acknowledging the truth in Kelly's words. I wasn't prepared for what you wanted from me. I came in guarded, defensive, and you didn't let me hide behind that. Kelly's voice softened, though it carried the weight of everything they had been through that day. That's because I don't think people connect to perfection. I think they connect to honesty, even when it's messy, maybe especially when it's messy. Meghan hesitated, then took a step closer. I was afraid that if I let down the wall, it would all come crashing in, that I'd lose control of the narrative. Kelly's laugh was quiet, but genuine. Control is overrated. You've got to trust that people are smart enough to see through the noise, that they'll choose to see the real you, not just what the tabloids print or what the headlines scream. Meghan met Kelly's gaze, and for the first time that day, there was no battle in it, just weariness and maybe a little relief. You were right. I was wrong. Kelly smiled, this time fully. I'm not interested in keeping score. I'm interested in understanding. And I think, in the end, that's what this should have been. About all along. There was a long silence between them. Not the strained kind that had filled the air earlier, but the kind that happens when people are finally on the same page after a long, hard conversation. Meghan finally said, quietly, "Thank you for pushing me, for not letting me just go through the motions." Kelly shook her head. "I wasn't trying to push you. I was trying to meet you where you were. I just didn't realize where that was at first." Meghan glanced toward the door, then back at Kelly. "I don't expect we'll ever fully see eye to eye, but I'm glad we ended this here. Like this." Kelly nodded. "Me too." They stood for a beat longer, the storm between them finally spent. No cameras to capture it, no audience to judge it. Just two women, both a little worn down, both a little wiser for the day. Meghan offered a small smile, the most sincere of the morning. "Take care of yourself, Kelly." "You too, Meghan." And with that, Meghan turned and walked away, this time without drama, without spectacle, just quietly, finally at peace with how it had all unfolded. Kelly watched her go, then let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. The day had not gone the way anyone planned. But maybe, just maybe, it had gone the way it needed to. And that brings us to the end of this remarkable, tense, and unforgettable encounter. If you made it this far, thank you for staying with me through every twist and turn. Make sure to subscribe for more stories like this, and tell me in the comments, if you had been sitting across from Meghan that day, how would you have handled the clash? I can't wait to read what you think.